Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Lady K Chat, a podcast that is designed for men and women to become better versions of themselves, which is broadcast every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Various subjects will be spoken upon, such as relationships, health and wellness, personal development, wealth building, children, and so much more. She is a 2-time Amazon best-selling author, an international speaker and life coach. She is Lady K. And now for your host, Lady K.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into the Lady K Chat podcast. You are here with your favorite host, Lady K. And oh my gosh, my guest and I, we got something for you today. Ladies, this episode is particular for the ladies, especially the married ladies, because today we are going to address and talk about the married single parent. And you're like, what, Lady K? What is that? Yes, that's ladies. That is us bringing our singleness into a marriage, and then you wonder why you have problems, and you looking at your husband like he crazy when you have to evaluate yourself. And I give so much credit to this young lady that's here with me today, because one day as I was scrolling through Facebook, she said something so profound. I said, listen, we definitely have a conversation, because she gets it and I need the rest of you to get it. But please help me welcome Mrs. Lasheena Doxley. How are you today, Lasheena?
I am doing good. I'm doing good, Lady K. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that you accepted the invitation. So, like I said, Lasheena, that day that I was on Facebook and I was scrolling and I saw your post, and I'm going to tell everybody what I'm talking about. I was just like, okay, yeah, we definitely got to sit. We got to talk about this, because you said something profound. You said, I realized I was bringing my single parent mentality into this relationship. I have a question for you. Why do you think so many women, that single parents, and when they step into the marriage, that they continue to bring that mentality with them?
Well, honestly, I don't think we realize it, to be honest. I don't really think that is anything that we're necessarily aware of that we're doing. I think it's just something that just happens. And when you recognize it, it's like, wow. And so I can't really say why they bring it into it, other than, it's a part of their upbringing. It's based on how they were raised. It's based on what they have seen. It's based on, whether or not they grew up in a single parent household. And even if they did grow up in a single parent, in a 2-parent household, they mainly watch the mother take care of all the responsibilities and do all the different things that needed to be taken care of around the home and with the children and things like that. So I believe it's just like almost a subtleness that's embedded in us, that I have to take charge and take over everything and do everything by myself mentality, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And just listening to you, it sounds like that's a generational thing that we're even not aware of. Because like you said, if you saw your mother do it, and you saw your grandma do it, and you saw the other women in the family do it, so you think, oh, this is what a woman is supposed to do, so I'm going to take all of this on board, not saying, hey, you came into a marriage because now you two are one. And yes, your husband may have other responsibilities, but it's like, why put all that weight on yourself? Because I think what we tend to do, this is what we don't realize. We put all the weight on ourselves, right? They said some of them, because not all of them, they're like, I'm here to assist you. And you're like, no, I got it. And then later on, you're like, well, you know what? You didn't help me. And now he's looking at you like, is she crazy? Exactly. Did I not offer my help to you and you said no? And I think also too, we get into the mind of saying, let him read my mind. And I'm here to tell you today, you have to kill that thought, kill that mentality, because people cannot read your mind. You have to be effective with communicating. And I understand within overtime, you don't get it. Like for me, I always tell myself, I used to be a yeller. You know what I'm saying? Everything I just yell my way through it. But then I realized Lady K, nobody wants to hear that. You're not going to get through to people just yelling. So for the woman right now that's tuning in and listening, if this sounds like you, yes, continue to stay in the seat, because we're going to address it. Because if we don't talk about it, then sometimes people get their aha moment, right? By listening to other people. But if you don't hear it, you're like, oh, well, I don't even think I fit in that category. So going back to the aha moment, Lasheena, when do you think you had your aha moment?
Oh, I when I first had my aha moment, honestly, I've been married for 15 years. And I think it was only about 5 years ago, maybe between 4 and 5 years ago, that I had my personal aha moment. Because I was used to just going off my own strength, going and just doing things, like you said, not communicating, not accepting help, not even asking for help when I needed it. I didn't think I needed it. I thought I can just do it. And I guess I got to a point where I was just really burnt out from just doing it by myself. And I realized, like, I'm getting upset with him and I'm angry and feeling resentful towards my husband. And I haven't even asked him if he can help, or if we can work together, take turns with giving the kids baths versus me just being the only one that's responsible for giving them baths and things like that. So it was probably about 5 years ago when I had that aha moment. And honestly, what prompted that was my husband. He was like, you don't have to do it all by yourself. I'm here to help you. And it was in him saying that it made me think, the light bulb went off, like, wow, I was raised by a single mother. I watched her do everything by herself. And I'm taking on the same mentality that I got to do it by myself. So even though I'm married,
right,
I'm operating as if I'm a single parent, because this is what I saw. This is what I watched her do. And so naturally, and then even me also being positioned in my family as the oldest. As the oldest, I had a lot of responsibility. I was like my mom's secondhand man, right? We were really close, best friends. So anything that needed to be taken care of, she counted on me. So having that responsibility as the oldest as well. So sometimes just even your position in your family can cause you to behave a certain way as well. So, but it was about 4 or 5 years ago when I actually had my aha moment. So imagine 10 years of being married and operating in this way, building up this resentment, feeling frustrated, angry at times and things like that. It wasn't until he said that, and then the light bulb went off for me that, wow, I'm treating this like I'm a single parent, and I'm not.
Right. And you're in a relationship. And Lasheena, thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to share mine, because it didn't dawn on me until when I was married and my ex-husband said to me, he said, because I remember my son was young at that time, and I think he was about to go to my mom's, and he was like, oh, I didn't know, Tony's going to your mom's today. I'm like, yeah, he is. And he was like, well, how come you didn't tell me? Because in my mind, I'm like, I didn't think I had to tell you. What I got to tell you for? This is my son, and he's going to grandma. And that was a big no until we actually sat down and had a discussion. So he said to me, what if I wanted to do something with the family today, and I'm thinking all of us is going to be here and we can all go out and do something. He said, but if you don't communicate with me and Tony's going some elsewhere, the lack of communication. So when he said that to me, it didn't dawn on me, which takes me back to something that you said so proficient. You said, why isn't my husband helping me? Sometimes we think automatic, they're supposed to. They don't do it automatically sometimes, because some people, like you said, depending on their upbringing, it doesn't click. But if you actually sit down and have a discussion, say, hey, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Can you take this shift, or can you take that shift? Like I even too, like, just growing up, all I heard was, like I told you, going back to the yelling. So that's how I knew how to communicate, was just yell. And I had to learn that you can't yell your way through life. Fall back, have a seat, evaluate yourself.
Yes.
And look at the bigger picture. And that's why sometimes I feel sorry for these men sometimes, because they be like, what did I do?
Right. No, I get it.
Do this time. time. And it's like, ladies, we really have, and here's the funny thing, right? We love to communicate, right? We love to tell X, Y, and Z, but there's a difference between communicating and communicating effectively.
Absolutely.
The goal at the end when you do it effectively. So I had truly had to learn that. And because I learned that skill in my relationship now, which is like amazing. I don't have those issues with my man. I don't have those, those yelling matches, or I feel like I gotta scream to find my way through. No, we just sit down and we talk, and then once we get over that hump, we move on to the next thing. And then that just takes an elevation in your relationship. So Lasheena, do you agree that once you sit down and you have effective communication with your spouse, it can get over some hump, and then it takes your relationship to the next level?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's very, very important. And I think one of the things that you have mentioned, that we have to communicate, we have to ask for help when we need it. But even when you think about that, a lot of the times it's not even about us needing it. Because what happens is this sense of need, that's what drives us to burnout. But it's let's operate as the partnership as one that we are, and just, communicate that beforehand and come up in a schedule help. So if it's with dinner, if it's like, because sometimes we go in like, the wife is the one to cook all the time. But if we just sit down and communicate and say, you know what, this would be helpful if we both can take turns cooking, maybe even if he doesn't cook as equal amount of times as you, but just one day will take a little bit off your load and be helpful, So I think coming out of that mindset of that, I have to need the help at the time, but it's having that conversation beforehand, and just that's what's effective. Right. And talking about those things to be proactive, so that now we're not operating out of anger or frustration and resentment and things like that. So being proactive in our relationships with communicating about how can we operate better together, and, sharing the responsibilities, honestly. Sharing the responsibilities.
Absolutely. And another thing too, Lasheena, that I want to bring up, that I know a lot of women, they don't realize this, but sometimes we got control issues. And the reason why I said we got control issues, right? Because sometimes we don't allow them to do certain things because we like it a particular way. Now, ladies, I understand you might like to smell your house in bleach. You might want to smell your house in Lysol. But listen, it's just like a child. If a child doesn't stumble and fall and do it again, how would they know to learn? So, and that's only through repetitive, redundant, can't even get the words out of my mouth. Redundant, help me out, Lasheena.
Behaviors,
thank you, right? As behaviors, exactly. Until you get it out, because what you're doing is you're saying, oh no, not that way. Do it this way. Look, let me show you how to. Now, you can do that with your significant other, but I think you have to speak to them a certain way. But at the same time, too, just let that person do what they do. They ain't going to do it like you do it. At least they put the effort in. And I think that's what we have to realize, lady. Allow him to put the effort in. If you don't allow him to put the effort in, then you're still sitting there screaming and yelling, he's still looking at you like you crazy.
Yeah. And it just doesn't work. Ultimately, it doesn't work. And the thing is, I'm guilty. I am so guilty, 2 hands up, and I'm still guilty. And it's something that I have to be conscious of and work through daily. And that's the thing, we don't just completely change, things that we've learned, behaviors and patterns that we learned just from our childhood and our upbringings, they don't just go away, and when you say that thing about control, it really is about control. It's really about having it our way. We tend to be spoiled, as women, and what we say goes, and that's what we get used to. But a lot of the times, like you said, I have to, take a step back. Okay, he didn't clean up as he's cooking in the kitchen. Well, because that's how I do it.
Right.
I just have to remove myself and say, let me allow it to just happen however it's going to happen. When he's having the kids get their chores done, I want to micromanage them. Make sure you're doing this, and that. He's going to walk away and say, they're getting it done. If they're not, it's going to be consequences. And I'm like, no, you got to make sure they're doing it. But then I had to learn, I got to allow him to do it the way that he does it. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be discouraging. And we say we don't want to get burnt out and do it all by ourselves or feel like we're doing it alone in our marriage and our relationship, then we have to allow them to do it the way that they do it. And it's so hard. It's so hard. But what I've learned is that one scripture that says, be quick to listen and slow to speak. So I have to remind myself of that. Like sometimes I cannot gripe about everything. I cannot have words. Sometimes I just have to keep quiet. Have to be quiet. And be okay with that. And it's
And I'm so happy you said that, Lasheena. I'm going to come back to that, but I want to say this first. Ladies, you have to remember why you marry that man. You have to remember what made you smile, what made you say yes. And to be honest, in order for you to trust that union, you had to trust him. So you have to trust him to allow him to make the right decisions and also do things for the household. Like Lasheena said, coming from our backgrounds, we do things unconsciously. But once you get to that stage of consciousness, once you are fully aware, like you said, you're like, oh, wait, hold on, let me slow down. Let me not say that. And you know what's even great too? The Holy Spirit would tell you, don't you say that. Don't you say that to that man. Hold up. You tired. Go sit down. Let him go tell those kids to clean the bathroom. And then things just start falling into place. But honestly, and I feel this way because I feel like I'm there. When I hear the Holy Spirit say no, I'm like, okay, I ain't going to do that. Because there's a reason why he's telling me no. Yeah. And I have to learn how to fall back and gain that control and say, you know what? I don't have to be in the mix. I don't have to micromanage. He got this because, again, obviously I trust him because I married him. So, ladies, I need to tell you that. Remind yourself. Why did you get married? That's why I love that movie that Tyler Perry did, because you see like the different perspective that each couple went through. Yeah. So, and everybody's situation is different because you have to know what's healthy in your household. That's another thing too. We're so used to bringing unhealthy habits. We have to learn how to kill them and also just be kind to your spouse. I know sometimes, they can't get inside our head, but we have to understand if you was on the other foot, how would you feel?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what it is, taking in consideration and taking in account, their feelings as well, right. And yeah, it's so important. And we don't even realize it. Like I said, most people don't realize that they're bringing that single parent mentality into the relationship. But once you're aware and once you talk about it, it's like, you start paying attention to different things that, you do. And then your conversations are different as well.
Right, exactly. Now, Lasheena, I know you're a marriage counselor, correct?
Yeah, I have, yes, I have my master's degree in marriage and family therapy. So I have a counseling background.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, question for you, because you have that, when you come across certain women and then you hear them yapping, we let people talk, but when they're talking, do you ever it jumps in your spirit like, okay, yeah, she's not there yet, or you can recognize she's in that single parent, syndrome mentality? Do you sometimes come across some woman that's like that?
Well, yeah. So to just kind of that's not the thought that naturally automatically comes to my mind, right. Because I'm really about, couples connecting with each other and really staying connected mentally, spiritually, emotionally, right? And a lot of that comes from communication, of course. So in my mind, what normally happens is, okay, how are you all working together? How can I get you to work together? So it's not necessarily the single parent mindset that automatically comes into my mind, but it's like, okay, so how are you in this situation? I see this is how your mindset is thinking, and this is probably where his mindset is. But this is how, through communication you guys can connect and come together to be on the same page. So that's more so where my mind goes, is always looking at how can I connect the two of you? You know, how can I help you, connect in this situation? And that's usually where my mind goes in that matter.
And that's great because, everybody have their different perspective, but at the end of the day, that is the goal, for the two to come together, to connect, in alignment, to be in agreement, because we know we don't want things out of order. And the first thing it says in the word, you need to have your house in order,
Yeah.
And, ladies, I think a lot of other people, they misconstrue some things in the word, and they apply it wrong. And that's because they just don't have the wisdom and knowledge yet. And it's okay, because we all learn and we all stumble and we fall short. But, we get back up and we dust ourselves off and we try it again. And that's what marriage is. And I think a lot of people have to have that mentality that, I'm in it for the long run.
Yeah.
And if I continue to do certain things, I'm going to exhaust myself. And also, too, change is good. It doesn't matter how you feel. As time goes on, things will change. Things is constant. That's something that you cannot control. So, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Sometimes you just have to change things up, and let it be effective to how it is in your household. But
absolutely.
With that being said, Lasheena, we're running out of time, but if the people wanted to contact you, how can they reach you?
Yes, you can contact me on social media, Facebook and Instagram. My business handle is Fit Lyfe Solutions. That's FITLYFE Solutions. And that's the same for Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to follow me on my personal page, that is Lyfe, LYFE _ with purpose. And my name is Lasheena Doxley. And yes, so you guys can reach me that way. And if you don't mind, Lady K, there was one more thing that I did want to mention, if you don't mind. But when you were talking about, coming together, and, when you come together as one, and the thing is, the enemy's plan is to keep us separated, and to keep us disconnected. However, intentionally, that's one of the ways that he can create division in a relationship through us operating as singles within our marriage.
That's a part two, Lasheena. We got to come back for that one. We got to take it to the word.
Yes.
And also, I want to end on this too. Pray together and pray for one another. See,
absolutely.
People don't understand the effectiveness of prayer, but like I said, that's a part two. We're going to have to go on that. Ladies, I thank you for tuning in today. I hope you was able to gain something. That's always my thing, that you're listening and you gain something from today. And like Lasheena said, you said something with purpose. That's right. You want to move and you want to operate in purpose.
Absolutely.
God has given us this time. We don't know how much time we're going to be on this earth, but just operate in purpose. And that is the word for the year. Purpose. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your night. After this, I want you to come over to the Facebook page and chat with us and tell us what you thought about this topic tonight. Continue to follow us at the Lady K Chat Podcast here on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And we're also on Apple and Spotify. And you can reach us on our website at www.ladykenterprisesinc.com. And everyone have a great night.
Thank you.
Lady K.